Take a look. The Dallas Cowboys have traded Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. The Bears' biggest rival, sending 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark in exchange for one of the best defensive players in football. The Packers making him the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And we welcome you out here to the rate. David Haugh, Clay Harbor, and what a lucky day to have ESPN's Courtney Cronin here with us, as we didn't know this news was going to break today, Courtney, unless maybe you knew something when you committed to coming on our show today. But we are so grateful to have you here and react to this massive blockbuster news.
What an afternoon. And to think the Packers now have the best player in football, potentially, on the defensive side of the ball. I think that you could make that case for Micah Parsons, for Trey Hendrickson, for any of the sack leaders, but holy cannoli. I can't find like the right words. That was my initial reaction upon seeing the news come out from Adam Schefter that it is Micah Parsons moving away from Dallas. You don't trade players of his caliber. Jerry's done it one other time in the time that he's owned the Dallas Cowboys, and to see how this devolved since August 1st, since he puts out that Notes app document detailing how things devolved so quickly, how he wanted to be out of Dallas after growing up a Cowboys fan, after always wanting to play there. And now, almost a month later, he is a Green Bay Packer. And this reshapes the NFC. It reshapes the conversation of Super Bowl favorites, and certainly reshapes what Green Bay's trajectory is this
year. The Packers are going for it. This is the biggest move they've made since Reggie White over 30 years ago. And guess who just took the North? This is the way they're thinking in Green Bay, because you look at what they're getting in Micah Parsons. Rarely do you see a player entering his prime, one of the best players in football. I'd say you go top 3 conservatively, and he is that guy. And now the Packers giving up what they gave up. Is it a steep price? Absolutely it is. But you have to pay for a premium, and this is who you're getting, Clay. You're getting somebody that changes everything about the balance of power in the NFC and puts from a local perspective, the Bears did not practice today, but they have to feel like they got worse.
Yeah, absolutely. To put some numbers to this, since he's been in the NFL, he's led the NFL in pressures with 335 and pressure rate with 21.1%. Leads the entire NFL. This is a guy that you have to change game plans for. This is a guy that you have to allot blockers for. So you come into a game plan. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have tight ends chipping. You're going to have running backs chipping. You're going to have to slide your line. You completely change your game plan. So now that's something Ben Johnson, not until today, just learned that he's going to have to do when he plays the Green Bay Packers.
Who told Ben Johnson?
I don't want to be the guy that knocked on that door. Yeah.
Maybe he got the Courtney Cronin ESPN alert.
He's probably got Schefter and all those alerts going right to his phone. But if you think about some of the issues that the Chicago Bears have right now, they don't know who their left tackle is, so they say, going into week 1. Fortunately, I guess, for their sake, they play the Green Bay Packers in week 13 and week 16, so there's a stretch there that's not for a couple of months away. It's a later problem to deal with, but you've got Jonathan Grenard right off the bat. You've got Aiden Hutchinson week 2, and then you're thinking Micah Parsons twice in the same season. You were supposed to see him week 3, and that was supposed to be it, and there was a big question mark if he was going to even be playing there as of 3 o'clock today before this news breaks.
This solidifies the NFC North, I think, as the best division in football.
I think it already was.
Now it was before, but now it's even who do you pick as the champion? Who's going to be the winner? The Lions, are they still the favorite? I don't know. The Packers, the one thing that people will talk about how this makes the Packer defense better, it also helps Jordan Love.
Yeah.
That's not to be overlooked, because Jordan Love needed something like this to help him just nudge in the right direction.
So I will say this. I don't think this is as big of a deal for the Lions and maybe the Vikings as it is for the Bears, because it's all about matchups in the NFL. What can you do man on man? The Bears, you're going to have Braxton Jones going against Micah Parsons. That's not a good matchup. You look at the Lions. Penei Sewell is your right tackle. Your left tackle is Taylor Decker. Minnesota Vikings, you still got Christian Darrisaw. You still got a good right tackle. You got a good left tackle. These matchups are not terrible for them. For the Bears, this is a big deal because they match up poorly.
I want to take us here for a moment, because before the news broke, we had it stacked in our rundown to talk about that Jerry Jones was listening to trades for the first time. So we were going to talk about, before this happened, what would it take for the Bears to have acquired Micah Parsons, and would it have been worth it? So I take us there now. hindsight 2020. Now we know what it takes. Now we know what it did take to get Micah Parsons. Could you have seen the Bears, Ryan Poles, getting on the phone today and saying, here is X, Y, and Z that we could potentially go get Micah Parsons?
I've been a firm believer that this team in Chicago is not a Micah Parsons away right now from getting to the Super Bowl. The Green Bay Packers are, and as David pointed out, they're going all in. They better win a Super Bowl in 2026 or 2027. We knew about the job security questions for Brian Gutekunst and for Matt LaFleur going into this season. If you don't win with this guy, then all bets are off. But for the Bears to not get involved here, I'm not surprised given the question mark right now is not about the defense. The question mark right now is not about anything other than can Caleb Williams be your franchise quarterback? This doesn't solve that problem.
You're right there. You're exactly right there. But I do believe that because he is 26 and because he's entering his prime, that if Ryan Poles was not involved in that, I would keep that a secret because I think it's total negligence. You're right about this year. They're not a Micah Parsons away from competing for a Super Bowl, but you could make the argument that if he were here, next year would be a year you could go for it.
But couldn't any team make that argument too, just because of the age here? He's 26 years old. He is, for pass rushers, you get in your prime 28, 29. He could have multiple primes, and he's already been one of the best defensive players in the NFL. I know it's a hard pill to swallow when you feel like you missed out on somebody like this, especially you're going to now, for the next 10 years, potentially facing him twice a year.
Today, though, Courtney, I think like the Packers felt in 2018 when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, and the Packers wanted him. And that was one of the reasons the Bears were compelled to go get him. And you saw what happened that year. The Bears were good enough to play in the Super Bowl that year. They didn't double doink. But I think that this year you feel like this is the Packers Khalil Mack move.
And I'll argue that if the Bears put the same offer down on the table to the Cowboys take the Bears offer. Why? Because they think the Bears will probably finish lower and they'll get a higher draft pick because of it. So, in my opinion, 2 first rounds and anybody would have got the job done because the Cowboys would have thought that they would have had a higher draft capital.
I think maybe, Courtney, this is a little bit more frustrating as you see 𝗃𝗀𝗏 reacting to the news in real time. Ayo, let me refresh my bleep. Ain't no way he went where? 𝗃𝗀𝗏 obviously one to take to Twitter and give us his reaction, which we appreciate, knowing, by the way, that he left practice yesterday. Hopefully he's okay. Keep refreshing and reading to make sure it's real. No way from J.J. Watt. Guys, I wonder if for Bears fans who are frustrated by the Bears not jumping in and getting ahead of this, does something contribute to that, knowing that the Bears pass rush this training camp, this preseason, has been less than exciting, to say the least? Montez Sweat, Dayo Odeyingbo have been quiet, and you learned today Austin Booker going to miss the first 4 games of the year.
I mean, certainly doesn't make you feel good knowing that he clearly was available for trade. And there's been reports that they had been listening to offers, not just today, but the idea was floated out there in the offseason. Did they kick the tires on this? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't know if it was completely cost prohibitive. That's the thing. You brought that up, Ruthie. 2 first-round picks. They're sending Kenny Clark, a defensive tackle, so not who we all thought it was going to be, Rashawn Gary, another edge rusher for an edge rusher. It's an interior guy down to Dallas, but then the price tag on this, they're paying him $47 million a year. Like, the reason that the trade compensation isn't what the Khalil Mack deal was, because I think that was the natural starting point. Oakland at the time got a 2019 first, a 2020 first, a 2020 third-round pick, and then that conditional 6th-round pick. Like, I thought it was going to look more like that, but then you see the price tag. T.J. Watt was at $41 million a year, guys. That's where the floor was. $6 million more a year?
And when you see what the Bears already have committed to their defensive line and edge rushers specifically, you see why they would talk themselves out of that. If Odeyingbo or Sweat was not part of the deal, they would have redundant pieces and overpaying too much money allocated to the pass rush. That said, I hope they had a conversation about it. I hope they didn't just summarily dismiss it as a bad idea, because if that ever got out, I don't think it would reflect very well on Ryan Poles.
The thing that makes it hard is this is probably, for me, the most concerning part of this Bears team is their edge rushers. Montez Sweat, Ryan Poles was talking about he had a great camp. I'm like, was I at the right place? Was Howard Hall where this camp went down? He had some nice plays, but he didn't have a great camp to me. In his 2 years with the Bears, he has a 9% pass rush win rate. I was talking about 21% for Micah Parsons. That's a difference. He got doubled up. And Dayo Odeyingbo is a guy that had 4 sacks last year. I mean, Dayo Odeyingbo has not popped in training camp. He has not popped in preseason. And now we see Austin Booker on IR. So to me, the only legitimate option you have is go out there and sign a guy like Zadarius Smith. He had 8-9 sacks last year. He's a guy that can get after the quarterback. He's a guy that you can line up across the defensive line, 3-tech, 6-tech, 9-tech, 6'4", 275. He fits a Dennis Allen frame. He's a guy that can get after the quarterback. To me, that's a real option now, and that's what you have to do to try to keep pace with the team in your division.
New prop bet on one of the books, it will be, will 𝗏𝗀 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 and Montez Sweat have as many sacks combined as Micah Parsons?
I would say no.
It's Courtney, I wonder from your perspective, when you look at what this means for the division, right? And Clay touched on it. The other teams are maybe better suited to go up against a Micah Parsons than the Bears are right now. How much urgency does this create for this team to figure out this left tackle situation? And not just that, but maybe you go look at other options other than the guys you have in the building.
I know what Ben Johnson said the other day. It was not exactly the biggest ringing endorsements when he said, we will have a starter week 1.
Yeah.
It will be somebody. There will be a warm body out there.
It might be David.
Why do you think he has been so reluctant? He's been so candid and direct in every other aspect of the operation, but he has yet to really embrace Braxton Jones or be as clear on this.
I don't think he thinks that's his guy, very obviously. Like, this is the best of a bad lot. And that's not to say anything about, Braxton Jones personally, but he came back from injury. He has not been the same player since. I personally think as a 5th-round pick, he hit his ceiling a year ago, and that's not a bad thing as a 5th-round pick, but you're never going to get high-end play out of him.
Right.
And this is, the way that Ben Johnson has been talking about this is the fact that they are willing to make a change. They will be making a change in season. You can almost think that there's the perfect storm here. You've got the week 5 bye. You've got a 4-game sample size to evaluate. If it is not anywhere near what they expect it to be, he's out of there. And if it's 𝗪𝗔𝗶𝗹, if it's 𝗃𝗏 your options aren't great right now. You know what Ryan Poles has done, though? He's always been really active at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
That is another option at that point, and that's, I know a couple weeks away from there, but
Sure.
You better, good thing, trade deadlines before you play Green Bay the first time.
Right.
It would have to be a trade, in my opinion. You're not throwing the Canadian Eagle out there without taking an NFL snap against a big-time pass rusher. I'm sorry, this guy's playing against 2s in the preseason.
Yeah.
𝗪𝗔𝗶𝗏, he's playing on the right side. You're not going to throw him on the left side when he hasn't had live bullets flying at left tackle. It just doesn't make sense. Karan Amagaji, I don't think that's going to happen either. You're going to work him inside at guard. So for me, it would have to be a trade. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And this is the other thing. If Braxton Jones is starting the season, his ankle is going to continue to get better. So you would think if he won the starting job, he's going to continue to get better, and he'll be the guy at the end as well.
Before Micah Parsons went to the Packers, the biggest offseason move in the division was Ben Johnson going to the Bears. So the problems at left tackle, this is what Ben Johnson is here to fix, because you can scheme ways. If you have a weak offensive tackle, you can find ways to scheme away from that. Difficult, yes, but that's why he's here.